Story 1. Late shift. I was a full-time student, earning an associate's degree in law enforcement. I had to earn full-time salary as well, so I took a job as a security officer during third shift at a local power company. The facility was set out in a rural area, with the understanding that I would be the only one there during the graveyard shift. I figured it would give me time to study. The first few weeks I was there were rather strange. I kept seeing the shadowy figure of a man walking very fast out of the corner of my eye. I really didn't consider this a haunting or a ghost. I never saw the apparition head on, so I went along my business, and I really didn't give it much thought. However, I became uneasy and spooked during the midnight and early morning hours. One morning, at about 6 a.m., I happened to be looking in the direction of some window blinds while I was sitting in the lobby area. This window separated the lobby from the work area. Just then, I saw the definite figure of a man walk by the blinds. I got up, thinking it was an employee who had gotten there early, and went to investigate. There was no one there. Later, the cleaning crew related a story in which they were seeing a ghost in the building. They described the same type of apparition that I was seeing. I had never told them my experience. While training new officers, I had some who would stop in their tracks while I was showing them the building. I would ask them what was wrong, and they'd be looking towards a room or a hallway and say something like, "Oh, I thought I saw someone walk by." This happened more than once. I spoke to the guy who used to manage the security division. He told me he had an officer leave in the middle of the night because he saw a shadowy figure of a man walking very quickly around the perimeter security fence. At the time, there was about 2 feet of snow on the ground, but after investigating the grounds, there were no footprints in the snow. I told an employee who had gotten to know over the time working there about the sightings. Almost immediately he said, "Oh, yeah, that's Jake." He was very serious. He said Jake had died about 8 years prior, and he had really loved his job. And it was probably him, checking up on things. Indeed, after checking around, there was a former employee named Jake, who had died about 8 years prior. Most of the security officers reported the exact same activity as I did, so I guess he really must be hanging around. Story 2. The Captain and his Wife. The farm is haunted by 2 ghosts. One is a Civil War captain who spends day and night walking the central staircase. Evidently, he had a wooden leg to replace his own that he lost in battle. An observer can clearly hear the difference between his step and the thump of his wooden leg. The other ghost is his wife, who haunts an upstairs bedroom. She is always seen wearing a purple dress. She is often seen staring out the window. The room, even in the heat of summer, is deathly cold. And no matter how they are blockaded, the doors leading from the room to the stairs and the attic cannot be closed. On one occasion, they were nailed and wired shut. The next morning, they were open, and the wire was hanging loose from the doorknob. This purple lady, the captain's wife, she also speaks. Once a young lady was sleeping in the haunted bedroom. During the night, she woke up to hear a woman tell her, "You should turn over before you fall out of bed." The girl looked, and she was hanging over the edge of the bed. Thanking the woman, she turned over and went back to sleep. The next morning, she thanked her aunt, the only other woman in the house, but the aunt knew nothing about it. They attributed this to the purple lady. A local school teacher moved into the farmhouse and was unpacking when she heard movement upstairs. She followed the sounds up to the attic, where she saw a man sitting in a rocking chair. She stared horrified as the man removed his head and placed it in his lap. That is the only reported sighting of the captain. The teacher moved out the next day. Later, a family moved in, and they reported hearing footsteps and the purple lady. They were the ones who nailed the doors shut, and later found them open. The father of the family would never spend time in the house alone. Many times the mother and children would return home to find him in the yard, waiting for them. I know this from personal experience, because that man was my father. Story 3. The Manor in Oregon. The Manor is a combination inn and pub complex on the property of what was originally a poorhouse and later a rest home. There are several ghosts that are said to be on the property, many of which have been experienced by both employees and guests. My husband and I were married and began our honeymoon there, and we ran into the ghost of a little girl who haunts one of the upstairs attic rooms. My husband heard her call his name twice while no one else was around. The second time, the sound sounded like it came from only 2 feet behind him. He said she sounded playful, like she was just having fun, but it terrified him. Later, my husband worked there, and he learned from other employees that the little girl is one of the most active spirits in the inn. There are at least 2 other spirits as well. One of them likes to move furniture and scares guests in downstairs rooms. We've also had some weird slips in time occurring in the manor. My husband has experienced this personally. Sometimes employees are sent down into the cellar to find wine or ale that is stored there, only to discover that it's lost and that the cellar no longer looks familiar. Instead, it's dry and cobwebbed and very confusing. The actual cellar is well maintained, clean, and easy to navigate normally. There seems to be a time placement discordance going on. My husband, for example, was lost for 45 minutes, wandering around, worried about missing his next catering shift. When he finally found the door back out, he found that though 47 minutes had passed on his watch, only 11 minutes had passed for everyone else. He refused adamantly to ever fetch things from the basement alone again. And he is not the only employee to decide this. Now they always make the new employees go to the basement because they haven't been lost yet. Story 4. Just Me. It started a few months after we moved in. First, the refrigerator started spitting ice cubes. Only at me. No one else. And then the windows in my room would shake like a sonic boom. But no one else would experience the same thing. One night I was sick. I was laying in my room with the door shut. The lampshade started moving violently, then suddenly came to a stop, as if it had never started at all. Then a few minutes later, as if I wasn't freaked out enough, my radio turns on. Some weird opera station. One night I was trying to sleep, and I heard footsteps and voices in the kitchen. I knew everyone else in the house was asleep. Another night I was trying to sleep, and I kept getting the feeling that someone was watching me. I rolled over quickly, and I saw a cloudy figure standing over me. It appeared to be a woman in a peach 80s-looking prom dress. She appeared to me a few times, getting further and further down the hall each time. I wonder what connection she has to this place. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the stories. If you did, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Bye.